Dignity is always a fragile thing, but something about becoming a mother puts it in real danger. From the moment you give birth in front of other people, you begin to realize your public image is now much more vulnerable, and it's intricately tied to your children. It will be a long time before you can go somewhere completely put together, well-rested, carefree, and without distraction. Sometimes you wish you had a t-shirt that says, "I promise I used to be a smart person in control of my life." Those are the battlefront years. Now my children are all bigger, and it's a magical wonder to go places in public without the fear of what might happen. I stand as a testimonial that it does get better. They mature, and so do you. Their behavior improves, and so does your patience. And you start to care less and less about what other people think of you. Nevertheless, that early struggle is real. I remember one day in particular that I came face to face with my dignity, and it spit in my sleep-deprived eye. This story is a legend in my family, and I like to call it, "The Beverly Hillbillies Get a Checkup." I had 3 young children, ages 3, 5, and 6. My husband worked full-time and went to law school at night. I was exhausted all the time. My daughter Natalie had chronic urinary tract infections, and once, after an extended fever, the doctor wanted me to bring her in at night. I gathered up the kids and our overdue library books to drop off on the way, changed out of my pajamas, yes, at 5:30 p.m., and herded everyone to the van. As I walked past the mirror, I realized that I had no makeup on and still had a little bedhead. Oh well. We ran our quick errands and made it to the doctor's office on time. I obsessively tried to keep my kids from touching everything in the waiting room so they wouldn't go home with H1N1 virus. But it was impossible. I realized Natalie was wearing a pajama shirt stained with medicine from a previous dosage battle. At least she was wearing regular pants and shoes and a jacket. I zipped it up. The boys sat in the hall while Natalie and I tried to collect a urine sample. She peed all over my hand. My son Clark has had a messy face since the day he was born. I joke he'll have dirty face in his wedding pictures. This day was no exception, with an artistic blend of pizza and snot. When we finally sat down in the exam room, the nurse asked a few questions and left. It was then that Grant pointed out his shoes to me. One was a navy blue lace-up tennis shoe, and the other was a beige suede slip-on. "Grant, why do you have 2 different shoes on?" "I couldn't find one of them." I sighed and rolled my eyes. The doctor came in and began to examine Natalie. When she pulled her hair back to look into her ears, she revealed a large, dark blue scribble all over Natalie's forehead and temple. "Oh boy," I laughed nervously. "It looks like somebody played with markers today." The doctor smiled, but I was sure she thought I was an idiot. She asked us to wait for a while so she could run some tests. Trying to manage the 3 children for an extended period of time was challenging. Grant and Clark both kept passing gas, which they thought was hilarious. But I was disgusted and embarrassed. I made Clark open the door a little to air out the room because it was gross and I didn't want the doctor to have to walk back into a wall of stench. I squirted hand sanitizer in my hands and waved them frantically in the air. I kept getting a whiff of the nastiness and growling at my boys to stop it already. And sometimes they would giggle, and sometimes they would swear it wasn't them. When the doctor returned, we discussed her findings, got a new prescription, made arrangements for follow-up, and she left. I helped the kids gather up their books and toys we had brought along. As I started to put on Natalie's jacket, I had a sudden realization. "Natalie, did you poop in your underwear?" She wouldn't look at me in the eye. Oh, sweet mercy. We found a bathroom and I remedied things as much as I could. I shoved a wad of toilet paper in her underwear to sit on in her car seat. It was now past their bedtime, but we still had to go fill her prescription. The kids ran back and forth between the massage chair in the pharmacy waiting area and the toy aisle. I did my best to control them, but eventually gave in and let them chase each other with lightsabers as long as they were kind of quiet and didn't hurt each other or anyone else. Finally, I paid for the $200 prescription and we left. The only redeeming thing about this story is that in an act of motherly heroism, I called out the manager and asked him to cover up some nasty magazines that were my children's eye level. He was kind and agreed, but I'm sure that deep down inside he wondered how a mother so concerned for her children could let them run around with mismatched shoes, markered faces, and poop in their pants. I thought, whatever, man, I just paid my entire grocery budget on one of your blasted prescriptions. I went home in a daze of shame. Today we laugh at the story, but at the time I was in awe of how low my public image could go. I've learned a bit since then about what dignity really is and how very little it has to do with public opinion. My favorite definition of the word is this: nobility or elevation of character. What I didn't understand as a young and frazzled mom, but I do now, is how much my children have shaped my character. They have made me a better person than I could have been without them. There is nothing I have done in my life that is more noble than birthing them, surviving them, and shaping them into people I'm proud to be seen with. So, to all young mothers who cringe every time you go in public, I say this: you may look like a fool to others. You may struggle to feel that you are making any kind of meaningful contribution to society at large. But if you are doing your best to sludge through those exhausting and difficult years with hope and love and, yes, heroism, then true dignity, with nobility and elevated character, you've got it in spades. And there's no shame in that.